Thank you very much, George, for the introduction. I'm really pleased I get the opportunity here today to speak to you about childhood cancer. It's a really important subject, and I was completely unaware of the challenges in this space when I entered it. And most importantly of all, I was completely unaware of what it would mean for my daughter if she would suddenly face childhood cancer. So I am the first one on the stage today to speak about this subject, so I'll give a bit of introduction to childhood cancer. There's a bit of statistics here. So I have borrowed some images here from the Children and Young People's Cancer Association, so CCLG. And what this shows us is that pediatric cancers are divided into 12 broad classifications. And underneath that, there are more than 100 distinct cancer subtypes. Now, thankfully, childhood cancers are rare. There are just over 4,000 new cases diagnosed every day or every year in the UK between the ages of 0 and 24 years old. That means around 10 or 11 children per day being diagnosed. Now, thankfully, survival rates are also high, but they do vary. They vary between classifications, they vary between subtypes, and they vary for those that relapse or have recurring diseases. So it's very important to note that childhood cancer is still the leading cause of death by disease in children. And despite these high cure rates, we see here the current treatments leave behind real battle scenes in these children's bodies. They face very limited choices of treatments, and especially for those children who relapse or who have recurring disease. The fact is that adult bespoke drugs are neither effective nor safe for children with cancer. So, if my child would face cancer today, it's likely that she would be offered, first of all, surgery. It's an invasive treatment. It's effective, but in some cancers, it means removing whole limbs. It's as a technique for removal of cancer. It was introduced 150 years ago. The next thing she might be offered is a radiation therapy. As a cancer treatment, it was introduced 125 years ago. Lastly, she might be offered non-targeted chemotherapy. Again, something that was introduced 80 years ago. Targeted medicine that includes immunotherapy in this respect is considered more modern medicines. For adult cancers, there are between 100 and 150 distinct new targeted medicines that have been bespokely developed for adults with cancer. In children, that figure is 8. 8 bespoke first-in-child medicines over the last 20 years. Now, of course, there are more treatments available to them. The FDA has approved more than 60 medicines that were developed for first in adults that are covering 85 now pediatric indications. So these are repurposed or repositioned drugs. The problem here is that the age-old treatments and these repurposed medicines cause long-term health problems in the children. So they face things like growth, development, endocrine problems, neurocognitive and learning difficulties, cardiac diseases, secondary cancers, organ-specific damages, musculoskeletal and physical effects, fertility issues, hearing and vision defects, as well as psychological and quality of life effects. That's what they face after cure. Of course, in adults that have been treated for cancer, they also face some longer-term complications of their treatments. However, our children have their whole lives in front of them. The mortality rate of pediatric cancer survivors are higher than the mortality rate of their peers. And the mortality rate of pediatric cancer survivors are also higher than adult cancer survivors. The current situation is just not good enough. We need to do better. So the question is, why have we ended up in this situation as a society? Why is it that it's so difficult to give our children more effective and safer medicines in oncology? It's important to note that the drivers of disease in children is different from the drivers in adult oncology. And that means more bespoke research is needed. More investment in this space is needed. Child cancer being rare means small patient populations. Small patient populations means lack of economic drivers. It also means small clinical trials challenges. Things like it's challenging to recruit, you need multi-center, multinational trials and cooperative centers. It's harder to get robust statistic data, and things like classical randomized, blinded, and placebo-controlled trials is probably merely only a dream for the paediatric oncologist clinicians' situation. So, lack of economic drivers means that there is limited industrial activity in this space through pharma and also biotech, which is largely profit-driven out of necessity. That means that drug discovery becomes academic-driven. The funding scales in academia can be sufficient for drug discovery, but not for drug development. The expertise that resides in academia can also be limiting, knowing what a good drug looks like. The infrastructure in academia can also be limiting. The high throughput setups, looking for that needle in the haystack, can be difficult. So all these things are limiting factors to get more drugs for children. When it comes to regulatory incentives, there are quite a few of them already. There are things like the 6 months extra market exclusivity, orphan drug designations, the US's priority review vouchers, accelerated assessments, conditional approvals, the breakthrough prime designations, and so on. And there's things like the RACE Act, which is not so much of an incentive, it's more of a forcing the hand, saying if your biology is relevant in children, you must do pediatric study plans in those as well. But none of this is enough to really drive the change that's needed. The problem here is systemic. And for that reason, we believe that nonprofit and mission-based organizations are uniquely positioned to come in and help alleviate this problem. So that leads me on to See Further. See Further is primarily a drug discovery initiative. It was founded in September 2024, but it's not just a discovery initiative, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So it was founded by Cancer Research UK and Cancer Research Horizons together with LifeArc, and we managed to get Gosh Charity on board with us. And together, we now have £37 million to kickstart the ambition of generating a portfolio of drug discovery projects with a child-first mentality, which can facilitate successful projects all the way into development and to the market. So philanthropic funding here is key. Collaboration with key stakeholders and the community even more so. We have to work together to overcome the market failure. So See Further's core operating space is to identify and select the right, or perhaps the most promising opportunities, and then support the drug discovery with a child-first approach in mind. So See Further is offering internal, industrial-minded drug discovery expertise and capabilities within LifeArc labs, Cancer Research Horizons labs, or we're supporting the science where it's best placed to be carried out. But what's really key for tackling the core problem here is that we, at a very early stage, make sure we define the clinical positioning of these potential new drugs. We assess the clinical trial fitness. Is it possible to run that clinical trial? As well as thinking about what is the bespoke route to market or to patient for each opportunity. We have to think at a very minimum of break-even sustainability. Without a clear plan for this, these therapies will fail too on their journeys as so many before them. So our attention is therefore also very much focused towards this. See Further is not just a grant funding body. We commit to finding solutions for the onwards route. See Further is a bold ambition. It's a challenging ambition, but it is one I'm proud to be part of. So at the very beginning, we set us some North Star goals for ourselves. And these very much looks towards the future. So we want to generate the world's fastest growing child-focused drug discovery pipeline with 3 drugs into clinical trials every 5 years. We want to look at tailored commercial approaches, meaning more therapies to clinic. And by 2029, we hope to have a business model that can accelerate the life-saving and safer drugs into clinic. Collaboration is at the heart of it all to overcome the systemic challenges. At the time of putting these goals together, there were 7 bespoke child-first drugs. Now there is 8, as I said earlier. So our hope is to see that number double in the next 20 years, or ideally shorter, and for See Further to be a part of that. However, over the next 2 or 3 years, See Further is focused on building and delivering a high-quality drug discovery portfolio of projects. So the journey starts with building a portfolio, but through global collaboration. So we are looking for the best science, which has the potential to become better medicines and safer medicines that can reach children. And at this stage, we have publicly announced 2 projects in our portfolio. So the first one here is a multi-party collaboration. It's with John Bushweller from University of Virginia. It's with Kim Stegmaier at Dana-Farber and Miguel Rivera at Mass General Brigham. This is for Ewing sarcoma. Ewing sarcoma is a rare, aggressive bone tumor. Patients here face intensive chemotherapy. Their 5-year survival rates for those with metastatic disease is just 20 to 30%. So here, the disease driver is a fusion protein called EWS-FLI1. It's notoriously difficult to target. However, what Dr. Bushweller and his colleagues have found out is that ETV6, which is a transcription factor, is a regulator of this fusion protein's activity. If you inhibit ETV6, you will facilitate terminal differentiation of the cancer cells, which will turn them non-cancerous, and it'll stop the tumor cell growth. Well, that's the theory, at least. And we hope that this will provide a kinder, more targeted approach for children suffering with Ewing sarcoma. And actually, we have the project lead sitting right down here, if you want to go and talk to her about it later. Lastly, the other project we have announced is a cell therapy. We know cell therapies hold great promise. However, logistics around them is challenging. Here we also have a multi-party collaboration with Mink Therapeutics, a biotech in the US, where the project is led by Dr. Marco Purbo, and University of Southampton, where the work is led by Dr. Ali Rokanian. Here we're targeting PRAME. PRAME is a cancer testis antigen. It's a really well-validated antigen. It's well-known. It's very competitive in the adult space, but not much happening in the pediatric space. This target is overexpressed in a range of pediatric cancers, sarcomas, medulloblastoma, AML, and ultra-rare cancer like DSRCT. There is potential here for broad impact. What it is that it's an iNKT TCR engineered cell therapy. That means it's allogenic, it's off the shelf, and compared to autologous therapies. It means it's more rapidly deployable. It means you can get faster treatments to the children that needs it. You don't need toxic lymphodepletion steps here before infusion. And these cell types have got tumor microenvironment modulating properties, which means we got a shot at treating those hard-to-treat solid tumors. Again, here we hope that this will lead to a kinder, faster, and more effective treatment in these patients. We hope we have more projects in the pipeline too that we can announce publicly, so keep watching this space. And just finally, thank you very much for listening. Do get in touch with us at any time. There's lots of further people in the audience here. James Pickett, my co-lead, is sitting right here at the front, so do come and speak to us. And yeah, thanks to all.
Thank you, Lorna. And just to say that this is, a very active, fast-moving program. Please do check out the website. Look out for when the next call is and what the criteria are. And if you or any of your colleagues, have any projects that you think will fit, please don't hesitate to get in touch and propose something. Great. And we have a few minutes for questions, I think, Lorna. Maybe some very quick questions. There's one over here.
Is it focused solely on drug development and drug discovery? Or does it encompass, does it encompass technologies as well? So I speak with a vested interest because I work for the UK Focused Ultrasound Foundation, which uses ultrasound in a therapeutic setting, not just diagnostic.
Yeah, no, this is mainly focused, or this is focused on drug discovery as an initiative, yes. So we would consider technologies, but only if there is a very specific focus on a specific therapy. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Other questions? One over on the right side of the room here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really nice talk. So I was just wondering, because you mentioned the commercialization challenges, and I was just wondering, is there something that you're doing to specifically try and address that issue? Because obviously, at the moment, this is pushing more things into the phase 1 sort of space, but then how does it get from phase 1 into the commercialization? Yeah,
this is something we're looking very actively at right now. Actually, we've been working a bit with Morgan Stanley to find some new solutions to this. We want to talk more to ventures as well. There's lots to do in this space. We don't have all the solutions yet, but maybe something like a mega fund, to fund that phase of the drug development. That's one challenge. I think you still have to think about if you can push it through all the way with philanthropic funding, you still need to get it to the market and you need to keep it on the market. You need to make sure that bit is sustainable as well for whoever needs to be the market authorization holder at the end of the day. So there's lots of challenges in front of us, for sure.
Thank you. One very, very quick question at the back here.
Thank you very much. It's very uplifting to hear you talk. It's a noble cause. And you're right, just ignore what happens in the past. Just ignore it completely. And the other thing I think I'm suggesting you could ignore is the market. Because the problem with all these rare disease or children's cancers is numbers, and it's numbers all the way along the line. You haven't got enough numbers for clinical trials, you haven't got enough to make the market sustainable, so ignore it as well. So ignore the history and the problems, but also ignore the market. And I'll give you an example that set up a company in Manchester which has TIL-based therapy, and it was bespoke. It was one patient at a time. We treated one patient, not in a clinical trial, one patient at a time, and functional cures. People were with brain tumors, lung tumors. They were surviving beyond 10 years. And they'd had every other traditional therapy, including immunotherapy, everything. But you went for one patient at a time, right? So there are certain modalities that you could, like UPRAME, where you could treat one patient at a time. That's your market, that one patient. I know I'm a bit extreme, but I believe in breaking down the system that we've generated, where we go phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, market. Forget all that. Just forget it. Don't have it even in your brain when you're doing it. Go for a single patient, treat that one patient. That patient's important, and then worry about sustainability after that. Does that make sense to you? Have you had these thoughts?
I partially
Can you
agree with
progress these thoughts, or is it always going to be take something that an adult's been given and try it in the child, or have you thought about actually going for bespoke treatments for kids as well?
Yes, we do have. And that might become apparent later when we may be announcing more projects. I think it very much depends on the indication and the specific situation, the modality, as you say, cell therapies, where that's more of a way forward. And especially where you have ultra-rare cancers, again, very relevant. You're not really talking about a sustainable route to market. It's never going to be sustainable, right? You're going to find a completely different way of doing that, right? But there are solutions you can do where you have broad targeting agents, right? Not just in a single indication, but where you span multiple indication, and there you can make your rare population look less rare, right? Because you've got more patients you can treat, and again, that will require a different approach. So I think everything has to be quite bespoke within this space. We are spanning quite broad within C further.
Thank you.
Thank you for your perspective.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you for that nice comment. Thank you.